You know, a lot of people are upset that Donald Trump has taken over the policing in Washington, D.C. I understand why they're upset about that, but here's the problem. In Washington, D.C., you have criminals that are literally running the town. For instance, even the mayor, Muriel Bowser, she and Donna Brazile, former head of the DNC, were the last two people to see one Seth Rich alive in the hospital. You remember Seth Rich, don't you? Seth Rich was a data manager for the Democrat National Committee. He inadvertently, that wasn't inadvertent, he did on purpose, gave a bunch of Democrat emails to WikiLeaks because he had discovered what a cesspool the Democrat Party was, and he wanted to expose it. So the Democrat Party, probably Hillary Clinton, we don't know, hired a gangbanger to shoot him. They shot him twice in the street. And the official story was it was a robbery gone wrong because he had a fat wallet full of cash and a beautiful $5,000 Rolex on his arm, and those things were left untouched. And when he was admitted to the hospital, the doctor that received him looked him over and said, yeah, 2 9mm bullet wounds. They're not life-threatening. We're going to set you up for surgery at 10 o'clock in the morning when I can come back here refreshed. So that's what they did. Enter Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., a black woman, and Donna Brazile, the head of the Democratic National Committee, a black woman. Neither one of them relatives, but they come into the hospital. They go to Seth Rich's room, and what do you know? Seth Rich dies of non-life-threatening injuries. Isn't that amazing? No autopsy was performed because he died in the hospital, and I think they probably counted on that. So Washington, D.C., is run by criminals, primarily for criminals. And we all know that most of the people in Congress, good lot of them anyway, are criminals. That's how they become multimillionaires making $175,000 a year. Joe Biden? Did you know Joe Biden owned a private island that was only 10 minutes away by mortar launch from Epstein's famous island? I digress. So, Donald Trump has stepped in. And for the first time in 10 years, they went 13 days without anyone being murdered in Washington, D.C. Usually they have between 1 and 2 murders a day in Washington, D.C. So I guess you could say, based upon that Donald Trump saved 15 to 18 lives in Washington, D.C. Oh, and also, according to several of the black people I've heard testify in Washington, D.C., almost everyone that's killed there is a black man. And the number one cause of death of black men in Washington, D.C. has been black men. So say what you want, but Donald Trump has stepped in and changed the situation to where now normal people can actually walk the street at night. They can actually use public transportation, and the chances of them being gunned down or beaten or robbed is greatly reduced. Not eliminated, but greatly reduced. So what do we say? Well, obviously, Donald Trump has been right about everything. They said there was nothing we could do about the borders and the fact that we were having thousands of people every day coming across our border illegally. Well, as Joe Biden said, we just need new legislation to fix our immigration problem. Donald Trump came in and said, no, we just need a president that wants to protect the United States. And now the average number of people coming across our border on a daily basis is one. One person, not 1,000, not 10,000. So that's all we needed was somebody to enforce the laws that we already have. Now, there's some people out there that say, well, we need more strict gun laws. Let me tell you how this works. A gun in the hands of a law-abiding individual is nothing more than a tool to defend those people who otherwise would be defenseless. It's already against the law to kill people, and it's already against the law to steal their stuff. So restrictive gun laws are not only stupid, but they are unconstitutional, illegal, and a violation of the U.S. Constitution. So if you want to solve the problem in Washington, D.C., do it like we do here in Texas. In Texas, you don't need a permit to carry a gun. That's the way it should be. You see, the bad guys didn't need a permit to carry a gun either. They just carried them. The bad guys didn't care when they walked into a building that had a no gun sign on it. They said, we're going to rob this place, and we're going to have guns because nobody else in here will have one. Going back to George Hennard at the Luby's Cafeteria in Killeen. Remember that? It's against the law to kill people. It's against the law to steal their stuff. It seems to me if we just enforce the laws that we already have, we have solved the problem. But the other solution is, since these criminals do not fear the police, since they do not fear the legal system, since they laugh at the judges that we have, and some of them are pretty clownish, so I don't guess I blame them much, what we need to do is arm the population. We should eliminate every restrictive gun law and come back into compliance with the United States Constitution and let every American over the age of 18 carry the weapon of his choice. Robert B. Heinlein wrote a great book many years ago. You might have read it. It's called Beyond This Horizon. And he was a science fiction writer, but in that book, Beyond This Horizon, there are a couple of great truths. And one of those truths is, an armed society is a polite society. You know the truth of that. The second interesting thing in there was a woman heroine in this novel openly carried a weapon. And they asked her in the book, why do you choose to carry a weapon? You know, it's a relatively civilized society here. We don't need that. She said, should I not prefer the dignity of being an armed citizen? Because a disarmed citizen is not a citizen. He is a serf. He is a slave. He is under the command of a government and not a free man at all. An armed man is a citizen. So it has always been. That's why Jesus said in Luke 22:36, if you don't have a gun, sell your coat and buy one. Oh, I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but you can go look it up yourself. Dr. Luke, the Greek physician, wrote in Luke 22:36, Jesus talking said, if you don't have a gun, sell your coat and buy one. Or in this case, they said sword. Why sword? Well, number one, they didn't have guns. Number two, at the time that was spoken, which is somewhere around 32 AD, the most dangerous, most deadly weapon that any man could carry was a sword. It was the equivalent of a squad automatic weapon in today's world. And of course, it was illegal for a Hebrew to own a sword. So Jesus was actually telling them to do something that the government didn't permit. Does that matter? I think it does. Also, we have to remember back in 32 AD, very few men owned more than one suit of clothes because clothes were very expensive and hard to come by, even if you made them yourself. So the fact that Jesus would say, it's better for you to be wet and cold and properly armed than to be able to not defend yourself and others from criminals and an overreaching federal government. Now, I am reading this in there because these things are all implied if you study the history. So if Jesus said, sell your coat and get a gun, I'd strongly recommend that you do that. I call that the 13th commandment of the Bible. So if you want to protect the people in Washington, D.C., you want to protect the people in Baltimore, you want to protect the people in L.A., you want to protect the people in Chicago, what do? You allow them to carry weapons. Remove all restrictive firearm laws. And I think the churches in places like LA and Chicago, particularly the black churches, should be involved in a government-backed sponsorship program to arm the parishioners that are willing, get them trained, and give them a fine weapon. A Glock, German-made, perhaps a Beretta, French-made, or maybe a Smith & Wesson, British-made, or a Springfield, American-made. But get them weapons. Put those weapons in their hands. Give them good training. And say, if you see any criminal action taking place, take care of it. I think we should pass a law that if indeed you stop a criminal from doing a criminal act and you kill him, there will be no inquiries. Because right now, this is happening every day in all of these places. Over the 4th of July weekend in the city of Chicago, they had something like 140 people shot. Yes, over a 3-day weekend, 140 people shot. And Mayor Brandon Johnson is stupid enough to say, we don't need your help. We have this under control. Well, I guess he's trying to reduce the population of young black men, but the point is, this is bad. It's against the law to kill people. It's against the law to steal their stuff. All restrictive gun laws should be removed immediately. And we need a governmental program to arm these innocent, law-abiding civilians so that they can defend themselves. And why? Police, you say. Well, in 9 seconds, a lot of bad things can go wrong. We have plenty of examples of that. Because when seconds count, a lot of people can die in just a couple of seconds, particularly if they've got a MAC-10 machine gun. And the police are always minutes away. Let's suppose the police are 3 minutes away. That's 180 seconds. But I know a particular church massacre where the whole thing was over in 9 seconds. Several people dead on the ground, fortunately including the assailant who was killed by a deacon. But all of that went down in 9 seconds. The police are, at best, 180 seconds away. But you know the truth, in Chicago, the police are generally 10, 15, 20 minutes away because they're overwhelmed. This is partially because in Chicago, 10 years ago, we discovered that there are more Sinaloa drug cartel soldiers on the street than there are police in the Chicago Police Department. How do you expect the police to be able to keep up with that sort of demand? So, maybe you don't like what Donald Trump is doing. Maybe you do. But I'm telling you, he's doing the right thing, and we need to follow through. You need to call your congressman. You need to call your state reps. You need to call your state senators. And you need to tell them, we want constitutional carry with absolutely no regulation, period. Freedom1300.com doesn't run on sunshine and well water, my friends. We need you. First of all, please share this show and the station on all of your social media. The Golden Triangle is on the cusp of the best decade in history, and we need you to be part of it. We need you to advertise right here on Freedom 1300 AM in Beaumont. If you are the best at what you do and your client base is in the Golden Triangle or southwestern Louisiana, this is the place for you to be advertising. It's inexpensive and affordable. Call me, Doc, today at 281-914-1331 and join the team at AM 1300. We still need a major sponsor with studio naming rights. We need a sponsor for the 1 hour show every Saturday. You can call Doc at 281-914-1331 and get in on the ground floor with AM 1300. Be sure to tell your friends at church, Rotary, at BMI, the Lions, the Eagles, the American Legion, and the VFW. AM 1300 is the place to be. You have a choice, and you chose Freedom 1300.